Oh, hello everyone, it looks like we are live. Before we get started, just let me know if my audio is working. Just write a comment that you can hear me and we can proceed. If not, just let me know if the audio is working and you can hear me. If not, we have a minute to adjust audio settings. It's working perfectly. Thank you, Wasif. Wasif, I'm not sure how to pronounce your name. Okay, so let's get started. Today we are gonna talk about Android and strategies to grow as an Android developer in 2023. And if you don't know me, let me introduce myself. My name is Jarek Michalik. Jarosław is my full name, Jarek is a shortcut, and I'm a Kotlin GDE. I'm a founder of initiatives such as Szkoła Kotlina. You can translate it to Kotlin School, but it's Polish initiative. Kotlin Testing, the only blog about testing in Kotlin in the internet. AndroidPro.io, that's upcoming. My personal website is michalik.tech. And I just counted like an hour before this webinar. I already helped that much developers in the last 2 years. And you can find me on Instagram. I write in Polish on my Instagram and on Twitter. On Twitter, I write in English. Volume low. Okay, I can be closer to my mic. Okay, and the topic for today, what's the plan? We're gonna discuss the hard truth about Android development, evolution of Android development landscape, how to stay up to date. I'll give you some tips if you're just starting in the Android development, what to expect from your first job. Do you need to learn XML or Compose? Do you still need to learn Java? I will show you strategies to grow as an Android developer and some non-negotiable skills for Android devs. Everything will become clear in a moment. We discuss remote work, async remote and remote work, something about cross-platform development, and I will show you my newest project, Android Pro and Android Architect. And after this, we'll go with a Q&A session. So first, let me tell you a story how I started. In 2015, I was studying physics here in Poland. And I started seriously with programming because, to be honest, after physics, you either become a PhD student or you become programmer. So I became programmer and I landed my first internship in Android development. Then I started speaking initiatives on DroidCon. It's funny because DroidCon was in Krakow for a few years. For one of two editions was in Krakow. We're in Krakow. I had a journey with my startup, Pablo. We failed. You don't know that startup. We didn't get traction. That startup failed. And the latest years were me coming from junior to mid position to independent consultant, and eventually I became Kotlin GDE. Okay, hi from Ukraine. Hello, hello, hello from Poland. And I want to tell you about the hard truth about Android development, because I heard sometimes, okay, you need to learn Java and you're set for life. And that may be true for the Java world. But in Android is not a thing you learn once and you're set, okay? So we need to understand that it's constantly evolving. And my friend Patrick wrote some time ago on LinkedIn that in the Android development world, the only constant thing is change. So we somehow need to embrace that. Let's look how Android development landscape changed over the years. So when I started, the Kotlin was already gaining traction. My first projects were in Java, but we were slowly introducing Kotlin to our applications. And eventually in 2017, Kotlin became endorsed by Google at Google I/O, and everybody and everybody started using Kotlin. Everybody in Android world. And I have a question for you. Who remember writing Android apps in pure Java? Let me know in the comments. In the meantime, we have a question. Will we get the live stream recording? Yes, you will get recording to the email you registered with to the webinar. So, no one worked with Java. Okay, Java is how I started with Android back in 2017. Yes, pure Java and Eclipse. Oh, I feel you. And see with Java too. Excellent. And do you like Java? Not so much when we have Kotlin, yeah. Okay, and with someone started with Kotlin, so that's a quite nice. And other people started with Java. Okay, so Kotlin eventually became the first language for the Android development, which I think is quite nice because Kotlin is quite robust, expressive language. We have functional options and Kotlin is nice. Okay, what's changed in Android development beyond Java to Kotlin? In 2016, Dagger 2, the second edition of Dagger, became the first choice for Android developers for dependency injection. And Dagger is quite hard to learn. In the meantime, community came up with other libraries for dependency injection or for service locator like Coin, Codeine. Those are Kotlin first dependency injection frameworks. But yeah, eventually Dagger 2 was migrated to Hilt. And Hilt, okay, is Hilt is some kind of abstraction over Dagger. I think I recognize Hilt as abstraction over Dagger. That's not exactly true, but it's how I think of it. So in some moments we had to migrate from Dagger to Hilt. Okay, another thing, UI. We all love Compose, okay, I get that, but I have another question for you. Have you had a chance to work with data binding? We have regular layouts in XML, but data binding was a new sexy tool some time ago. Have you had a chance to work with data binding? Yeah, data binding, and yeah, data binding is pain. I feel you. Data binding is actually a painful framework to work, but it looked kind of promising. Comparing it to Jetpack Compose, it's another world. And you used view binding, and it reminds me of a refactoring I did like 1 year ago, because we wanted to migrate from data binding to Jetpack Compose. But the Jetpack Compose compiler wasn't compatible exactly with data binding compiler, so we had to migrate first from data binding to view binding, and then from view binding to Compose, because those compilers couldn't work together. Only use data binding to store recycler view item data. Yeah, that's the nice usage of data binding. And have you had the chance to work with two-way data binding? You wrote in XML something like dot id at id equals, and you put callback. Okay, so two-way data binding, heavy usage of two-way data binding is hard to refactor, to view binding, and eventually to compose. So data binding is a thing that is quite painful for me at the moment to refactor. Yeah, something like that was used for data binding, but something like that, I'm writing in the comment, something like that was used in two-way data binding with this equals sign. Okay, but that's all for data binding. That we have Jetpack Compose and it is nice. But it's another thing we need to consider when modernizing our apps. Okay, we have Jetpack libraries and it is actually useful because a lot of things that we do in everyday's app, like in almost every app, we need some kind of navigation. Jetpack library provided simplified navigation. We got live data and view models. Okay, live data is not sexy anymore. We have Kotlin flows, but that was the first solution in the initial Jetpack libraries. We have Room database. We have Work Manager. What other Jetpack libraries do you know? What other Jetpack libraries do you use? Or what's your favorite Jetpack library? Yeah, actually data binding was a part of Jetpack library at some moment. Navigation, yeah. Navigation, what do you else have? Paging, yeah. I knew I forgot about some Jetpack library, some common Jetpack library to this presentation. Yeah, another paging. And yeah, I agree. Room is a common one for Android development because who wants to create SQLite queries? Yeah, Room is amazing. Just put annotation and go with your code. Okay, model view anything. When I started the promoted solution to write Android application was to put everything into main activity. And then we slowly learned to use some kind of abstractions, model view controller and its dependents, like model view presenter. And that was my go-to solution like in 2017, 18, until model view model was introduced and backed by Jetpack's view model. What's your go-to solution for abstracting away screens? Model view presenter, model view model, or maybe you prefer model view intent? To be honest, every one of them is model view controller, MVVM, team MVVM, just like me. MVI sometimes, okay, model view intent is quite interesting. MVP, MVVM, MVI, so that was your evolution, right? Oh, don't skip architecture. Architecture is quite important. Maybe not for your first app, but if you want to work in a team in a company, architecture is a must. I will tell you later about it in non-negotiable Android skills. Okay, and architecture, we have clean architecture. On Android, we have some variation about Uncle Bob's principles. So it's again using solid principles, using clean architecture to make our apps scalable. But what does scalability mean in this context, in context of Android development? Scalability doesn't mean we will buy more servers and our app will go faster. Scalability is about your team. How fast can you make changes to the application? How effective your team will be while working on that particular app. So clean architecture is something I'd like to consider in terms of working in a team. Abstracting UI so you won't be dependent on model changes, abstracting model changes from data source, and so on, so on. Fully agree. For large-scale projects, clean architecture is a must. And to be honest, I'm not sure why Android or even mobile community didn't adopt that DDD principles, domain-driven development principles. Do you know DDD? Domain. Do you know DDD? Okay, it's a concept more popular on backend side when you are modeling your business logic, like for e-commerce store. Only by name I need to dig into it. Sure. DDD is something worth considering learning, not exactly for Android development, but for your software craftsmanship skills in general. I used in backend projects, exactly. In backend projects, DDD is a common practice, or at least should be common practice. Okay, but what we talked about, sorry, is like 10-15% of what we need to know to build amazing apps. And that's sad. So, how to stay up to date as an Android developer? Do you have your favorite resources? In a moment, I will show you mine. What's your favorite resources for staying up to date as an Android developer? Okay, we have Android Weekly, that's on my list. Android YouTube channel. What else? Documentation. Okay. Oh, me, thank you. Okay, but first I will show you some resources I follow. So first, conferences: DroidCons, Google I/O, Android Dev Summit, KotlinConf. That's like the best conferences in the world. If you have a chance to attend it, go to your local DroidCon, go to your Google I/O Extended, and go to the KotlinConf unless go to the KotlinConf if you get a chance to buy tickets. Okay, what else do we have? Google Colabs, Android Dev Summit, and Android Dev subreddit. Yeah, I used that subreddit some time ago, but I'm not sure why I stopped. I uninstalled Reddit because there were too many memes, and that Android development was like a small part of my Reddit feed. Okay, that were conferences, but we have online resources. As I mentioned, Android Weekly. If you don't know Kotlin Weekly is also a nice resource to get your weekly dose of Kotlin related content. It's called Kotlin Weekly, but sometimes Android-related materials land there too. We have Android Developers blog. We have Pro Android Dev leading Medium publication. And we have Kotlin Academy from Marcin Moskała. It's more focused on Kotlin, but it's worth to follow. Do you have any other blogs or newsletters? There were some publications also, Android Pub on Medium, but they stopped maintaining it. Okay, but yeah, we have Kotlin Weekly, Android Weekly, Kotlin Weekly again. How long you spent on staying up to date every week? To be honest, I'm not sure, because like scrolling Twitter or something like that is a part of daily routine. Maybe it shouldn't be daily routine to spend time on social media, but yeah, I see some interesting article and I read it. So I'm not sure how long actually I spent on learning new stuff in Android development. And yeah, we have Fragmented Podcast. Don Felker hosted that, I believe. I think in some moment they stopped talking only about Android and they took on some more general topics, which is nice. But yeah, Fragmented Podcast was quite useful. Okay, so that's the problem. You have like 1,000 articles and 5,000 videos, and now you have to consume it all to stay up to date. And maybe it's not as hardcore like in front-end world in JavaScript when new library is published every day, but yeah, staying up to date is actually quite hard. Okay, do we have here any students, junior Android developers who are just starting out their Android development journey? Probably we have some students here. Okay, we have students or recent graduates in the mid of the journey. Okay, junior developers. So I think that section of presentation will be for you. So that's the most common question I get in my Twitter DMs. So I just started learning Android. Should I go with Compose or XML? So if you're just starting out, you should realize that Compose is still quite new. And if your goal is to get a job as an Android developer, there's a 99% chance that you'll be working with legacy projects. And Compose will be used only in greenfields. So learn Compose, but don't ignore XML layouts. The older tutorials you may find on YouTube, on Udemy, elsewhere that follows XML, don't ignore them. They actually may be useful. Okay, we have here Flutter developer who wants to learn Android development. So if you have Flutter background, Jetpack Compose should be easy switch for you. But yeah, you still need to learn native Android development with XML. Okay, other thing. And that question more often comes from backend developers that need to switch, that wants to switch from backend to mobile. And the question is Java or Kotlin? And the truth is you can still build Android apps in plain Java. And yeah, we as an Android devs love Kotlin, and that's understandable because Kotlin is amazing. But under the hood, Android works on some kind of Java virtual machine. And most of Android APIs were originally developed on Java, on Java 7, Java 8, and so on, so on. So understanding what's going on in Java libs gives you actually superpowers in your in your development journey. You don't need to master Java, you just need to know what's going on when you decompile library and try to understand what's going on under the hood. So have you recently worked with Java? I'm wondering. I did recently work with Java. I had full Java projects on with some client, and it wasn't that much experience. It was hard. DSA in Java, okay. And I guess we don't have LeetCode type problems in Kotlin, yeah? And yes, Zara, Kotlin is the future of development across all platforms. I want to believe that. But it's the future. We are focusing on what's going on now. I want to believe that Kotlin is the future. I've started with Java. Now in the project, we migrated almost the whole project to Kotlin. Okay. And what did you start the migration with? With tests, with adding new features? JavaScript, hold my beer. I guess it is in terms of that message that Kotlin is the future of development across all platforms, because JavaScript is the present of development across all platforms. We like it or not, JavaScript is everywhere. So your migration was new features, build new features in Kotlin. And actually, that's the strategy I recommend to some of my clients. Okay. And when you are looking for your first job in Android development, in mobile development, you may start wondering what to expect from your first job. So let me tell you first how my first job looked like, and maybe some of you in comments can put your story, how your first job in Android looked like, so the people who are looking for the first job will have some insights into how it looks like now. So I started with internship projects, and we were doing IoT application, and that app was actually in Java. And then we shipped project from designs to the internal release. And there were some parts of backend engineers among the interns, mobile engineers, front-end engineers, and we created the whole, very basic, but the whole platform for IoT. And that was actually quite nice as an internship project. And then when I started with junior position in the same company, my main responsibilities were bug fixing and break changes, like fix that button, something like that. Provide new translations. But eventually I started doing more and more of much more interesting tasks. Like I was part of the team that was introducing Kotlin to those applications. We were introducing model view presenter to the single activity, put everything in one file architecture. And in that particular company, I had my own initiatives, like providing some mobile DevOps stuff, setting up CI/CD, Git hooks, things like that. So I had a very nice playground in my first company. And part the same, first bug fixes and help building new features. And yeah, that's the reality with the first job. You start with the boring stuff. But the truth is, no one should expect you to be familiar with the whole stack you see on the job offer, or understand everything that is happening in that particular project, because original maintainers doesn't exactly know what's going on in applications. They shouldn't expect you to work on major features from day one, and they shouldn't expect you to do stuff without Googling, using Stack Overflow, or maybe now using ChatGPT. AI will replace everything, but not Android developer and Android Studio. Okay, that may be truth. We will see. We will see how AI will advance in the future. But yeah, actually, programming interviews are much harder than the programming job. Do you agree with me? Yeah, programming interviews are harder than the job. And in the meantime, I see you are writing other questions. So write your questions for a Q&A session. We will do at the end the full QA session. Okay, and yeah, interviews are harder than the job itself. And it shouldn't be like that. Okay. What else is about growing as an Android developer? We know some Kotlin syntax sugar, we know how to do compose stuff, we maybe know how to use some fancy library, but there are some skills for Android developers that I consider non-negotiable. So every Android developer aspiring to be, I don't know, like top 1% should know this. And I am wondering if you agree with me. So, design patterns and clean architecture. So, if we are working in a large scale, like Zara wrote before, yeah, we need to know clean architecture and common design patterns in software engineering. We need to know some stuff about automated testing, or at least unit testing in our framework of choice. For Android, we write unit tests in JUnit. And I think the most important thing, especially for Android developers, is skill of creating user experience, because our applications eventually land up in the hands of the user. Yeah, and we need to somehow learn how to craft the best experience for the end user. Not only fancy code, fancy architecture, but this is our product, application that someone is using. So what would you add to this list? Yeah, testing should be a norm. And while in backend world, unit testing, unit testing is more common practice than in Android development. Okay, I see you're learning automated tests, end-to-end tests, but don't forget about the foundation of the test pyramid, which are unit tests. And yeah, that's sad that in some projects unit tests are non-existing. Okay, I see already some questions in the chat about getting a job or remote work, so let's get to the part when we'll discuss remote work. And to the previous slide, also Zara said, design patterns and solid principles helps a lot as well. Fully agree. Okay, remote work. I have a question for you. What's the difference between remote and async remote in terms of working on a software project? What do you think? What's the difference between remote and async remote? Okay, remote is in line with the company's time zone, and async is time flexible. Okay, something like that, I think. Yeah. So basically, remote work is working from any place you want, but you need to be present at some meetings. And async remote means there are no meetings. And do you believe we can work in that way? Exactly. Async is when you mostly communicate via chat and you're not exactly on the same schedule. And we have comment in here that async remote means hybrid. No, not exactly. Async remote is remote but without meetings, and hybrid work is you're remote for like 4 days a week and 1 day in a week you are in the office. And async remote is tougher. And why is that? Why async remote may be harder? Not sure. Okay, so how to find remote work? Not exactly in Android development, but like in software in general. We have job boards, like for example, Working Nomads. You can write to recruiters directly on the LinkedIn. But two strategies that I endorse the most is reaching to companies personally and doing some outbound work. So, for example, you have some project on your GitHub, you have nice portfolio, and eventually work is finding you. And this is hard, and this is long term, but it is actually possible. But if you don't find anything interesting on job boards, try working with recruiters directly. Recruiters works on commission. So if you get in touch with someone who, for example, works for London-based outsourcing company, they may help you with finding the work you need. Because the truth is, most of job offers don't even get to the job boards. Their offers are spread internally across the friends and family, and then across companies' network. So the best jobs don't land in the job boards. And however extrovertic it may sound, and I'm saying this as an introvert, you need to talk to people, to the recruiters, to the companies to get the best offers. Next thing, cross-platform. Write in the comments cross-platform frameworks you are working with or you are familiar with. I'll start. Flutter. Who likes Flutter? We have Kotlin multi-platform. We have React Native. Do we have someone working with Microsoft tools? Yeah, JavaScript everywhere. CMP, I believe Compose, multi-platform, yeah? We have Flutter, Kotlin again. Okay, we have Xamarin. So, cross-platform, is it worth it? Is cross-platform worth it? So, it may be better for smaller companies to start on a project, to start the project fast and iterate fast, get product to the market and do something with it. But cross-platform is not exactly one size fits it all, because we need to think about performance. Not only about performance on the device, but the performance of the development team. So if you have team of native developers, you have Android team, you have iOS team, and you tell them, okay, so now you need to do application in React Native, they will say, yeah, but we can do it native faster. Yeah, so choosing cross-platform framework is not an easy task and should be considered from few perspectives. From perspective of the product team, do we need to iterate fast? From perspective of the development team, are we comfortable with these technologies? And from the perspective of longer maintenance. So if we do our MVP in React Native or in Flutter, do we plan to maintain it in Flutter? Do we need to hire Flutter developers in the future? Cross-platform is no use for larger projects. Okay. And do you know some larger projects that are using cross-platform? There is some project using React Native, and it's actually Facebook application. They were using React Native. Oh, that's the good point, that cross-platform is good for freelancing. Because as a freelancer, you're not usually doing the big project or not so big as a software development company would do. And you have market advantage. Because with Flutter, with React Native, you are getting your client with two applications at once. But what's the downside of it? I'm not sure. Maybe your client will need to rewrite at some moment that application to native. But it's not your problem anymore. So yeah, cross-platform may be actually good for freelancing. Kotlin multi-platform is native at least for Android. Yeah, but you still need to abstract away some Java libraries. And yeah, Instagram is an application that was created in React Native. And do you know in which technology Meta engineers created Threads app? Exactly, in Compose. I'm not sure right now if they were using Compose multi-platform or just Compose for Android, but they had a chance to iterate quickly on UI using Jetpack Compose. So yeah, even though Meta engineers use React Native or in-house developed tools for their mobile applications, they still used Jetpack Compose for a new project, which is interesting. Okay, now I'm gonna show you some strategies to grow as an Android developer in 2023 and beyond, because they are quite universal. The first strategy, I think that's the official strategy of seeking knowledge. So you are looking for documentation, you are doing online courses, certifications. You may even obtain some course from Google, which is nice. You participate in hackathons, you get challenges, you get other certificates. You read books, you follow industry leaders, and you experiment with new tools. And you are constantly expanding your knowledge, enhancing skills. That's the first strategy. The second is more focused on community. And I like to call this strategy community connector. So you join communities, your local Google developer groups, Kotlin user groups. You go to conferences, DroidCons, Google I/O, so on. You engage in open source. You seek a mentor, or you even become a mentor, and you collaborate on projects. You are teaming up with fellow developers. And I think that's the best strategy for mid-level developer to grow into senior dev. Okay, other strategy is what I call mobile full stack developer, and it's kind of holistic approach. So first of all, if you are going to work as a freelancer, you're gonna focus on your soft skills and business skills. And if you are freelancing, you need to know some Flutter, React Native, and also backend development. And I saw comment asking, is Ktor a good choice for backend if we know Kotlin and we want to do backend? So yeah, Ktor is a good choice for backend, but as well you can use Spring Boot, which has Kotlin support too. And if you are doing mobile full stack path, you may also choose your specialization. It may be IoT, it may be artificial intelligence, Web3, crypto, stuff like that, or augmented reality. So keeping up with new technologies may give you some advantage on the job market. I have some friends who invested highly into Web3 technologies, and after 2 years, they are industry experts in Web3. So you may try specializing in some new technology. And my favorite strategy is building. And I think it's the best strategy for junior developers. You're gonna focus on building personal projects and maybe starting freelancing. So you're gonna start your own projects. You're gonna identify what app needs to be built and identify market gaps. You may clone some application and provide one feature that other application is lacking. So other scenario is when you are contributing to some other applications. Do you use some open source applications personally? Apps that are open source? Let me know in the comments what open source applications you are using, because I know for sure you are using open source libraries. Seal is one such app. Telegram, yeah, I'm using Telegram too. Is Twitter open source? Yeah, their algorithm is open source, kinda. But for Telegram, they open sourced not the backend, but the mobile applications for Android and iOS. VLC Media Player, RedReader, Foursquare. Okay, I don't use Foursquare. Firefox, Signal. So there are a lot of open source apps that we are using every day. And Harsh, according to your question, how can I get started with open source? You choose any of those applications that are listed below: VLC Media Player, Foursquare, Firefox, something else. You are subscribing to those projects on GitHub, on other Git platform, and you are watching for new issues that are marked beginner friendly. Or you can just go to the GitHub and search for a good first issue or something like that. During October on GitHub there is Hacktoberfest contest, which is aimed to help you with starting with the open source contributions. And I have one question for you. What do those strategies have in common? Doing. You need to be doing, not just learning. What else? Okay, I'll tell you what those strategies have in common. Communication. Yeah. Communication is a key. Because what those strategies have in common is communication, networking, and as I wrote, building stuff for people with people. Okay? So that's the common denominator of those strategies. And as a side effect, you make yourself a brand by doing great stuff. So what's your go-to strategy? What's your favorite strategy across all those four? All those four strategies. What's your favorite strategy? Yeah, consistency. That's also a crucial element in every one of them. Okay, we have your go-to strategy is knowledge seeker. Okay. We have project-based learning. Yeah, that's the common denominator. And also that strategy with building stuff. and eventually building a personal brand. Teach whatever you learned, and that's amazing strategy. Thank you. So what we discussed so far? We discussed how Android landscape constantly evolves. You agree with me that staying up to date is challenging, and we need to be proficient with a lot of stuff. And finding a good remote company is hard, but not impossible. If we want to tackle with cross-platform, it's okay if we want to do freelancing, but specializing in native Android development may also be beneficial, because when new apps are created in Flutter, there are still needed people to maintain apps written in Kotlin Java and Swift Objective-C. So for at least, I don't know, 10 years, there will be demand for native Android developers. And no matter which growth strategy from all I mentioned you choose, you're gonna need to work with people and get some soft skills. Okay, and many developers lack structured path and consistency. Yeah, because we are doing some tutorial. We are doing project solo. Okay, but what's next? And that is always the question. Another thing, when we want to learn from other people, it's not always possible to attend offline conference. It's not always possible to get to DroidCon Berlin, on DroidCon San Francisco, especially when you are living like 2,000 kilometers away. So it's not always possible. And you don't always have a local community near you. If you have some Google developer group, Kotlin user group, that's great, but not everyone has that. And it's hard to find like-minded people even in the internet. Another thing is that premium courses tend to be expensive, and YouTube tutorials are often outdated. So, and they don't follow industry standards. You are watching tutorial on how to do something in Compose, and they totally forget that you should do clean architecture, and it's outdated. And because of all those things, I am introducing Android Pro. Android Pro is a membership aimed for Android developers on junior and mid level. You can go to conferences, you can go to open workshops, you can work in social media groups, but it tends to be more general knowledge. When you need specific knowledge, you get to newsletters, blogs, master classes, but eventually you'll need more specific knowledge and more community support. That's why we are building Android Pro. And I like to say, alone you may go faster, but together you'll go further. So I invite you to join a growing community of Android professionals to learn together and collaborate. So Android Pro gives you access to Android devs across the world. We are building a dedicated channel to discuss your projects, and we will be doing live masterminds to discuss your current issues, current challenges, and just to hang out together. And also, as a part of Android Pro membership, you'll get amazing courses. You'll get all of my ebooks published so far, for example, about ChatGPT with prompts for beginners. Is it become 10x developer using AI? Not exactly, no, but those are quite useful prompts. Okay. We have workshops recordings, for example, testing masterclass, which was held like 2 months ago. We'll be doing regular masterminds to discuss challenges with fellow devs, and there's more to come because by the end of September, we are running Android architecture cohort, and I'm doing everything so this course will be the last Android architecture course you ever need. Cohort will take 6 to 8 weeks, and we are starting in 1 month. So those are materials that separately will cost you like over 300 euros. But I want these materials to be accessible to everyone. So we've came up with monthly and annual subscription plans. With monthly plan, you get everything that I mentioned, those courses, those masterminds, and additionally, with annual plan, which will be something like 11 euros a month, you get also my latest ebook, Android Interview Pro, the interview resource that will help you pass the Android interview. And for the all plans, we have 37 days, no question asked, money back guarantee for all plans. So you have a chance to dive into community, see if it is for you, and if you don't like it, we send you money back. And you may ask, is there a special promotion during this webinar? And I will tell you that there is, because till the end of the day, annual plan, you can save 20 euros on the annual plan, and only this week with annual plan you will get Android Interview Pro ebook. And the question that comes often a lot, can I use my company's training budget for it? Yes, and you should. You will get VAT invoice with proper taxes and everything, so your company can use its budget. So to sum this up, with Android Pro, you get networking opportunities with professional Android developers. You develop your project inside the community, you get live masterminds, you have amazing courses, and access to the first cohort of Android Architect, which starts by the end of September. Official launch of the Discord server is in a week, but access to all other courses you will get now. So visit website androidpro.io/community and choose your preferred plan. I will send you also this here. And I have one sneak peek for you, that one of the first live workshop we'll be doing will be around using ChatGPT in everyday's developer workflow. So that will be one of the first workshops, besides Live Masterminds, besides Android Architect cohort. So if you want to meet like-minded people, if you want to accelerate your career, you want to get pro at Android, and you want to help others, and you want to get help from mentors and community, I invite you to join Android Pro. And now we have official Q&A session, and I will take any of your questions. Yeah, Alice is saying that it's not that much for such a great course, and you have many courses and community access. So this is quite nice offer. Write your questions in the comments. I will scroll to the top of the YouTube stream. Because there were some questions before. With troubles with multi-module architecture. Actually, multi-module architecture will be a part of Android Architect cohort. I will show you that you can model your domain layers with multi-modules, but you don't need to. Just because multi-module Gradle architecture is in the most tutorials doesn't mean you need to do something like that. You can structure your packages. Next comment. Okay, multi-module again. How much useful is multi-modular architecture? It is quite useful if you are working on a large-scale project. So if your team is large and you need to collaborate on a features, you don't want to commit to the same packages, same files. So multi-module gives you some flexibility in that part, and if you optimize it correctly, you can have some build times benefits with multi-module architecture. Actually, there was a talk at the Google I/O Extended in Free City in Poland about something like that. I'm not sure if it was recorded. If I find this talk, I will send in the newsletter. Looking for comments. JavaScript, hold my beer. That was related to cross-platform projects. Yeah, JavaScript is original cross-platform. Another question: how much useful is to build Ktor backend for a full-scale project? I don't know full-scale project that uses Ktor. Full-scale projects that have Kotlin usually focus on Spring Boot or Hibernate, and they use Kotlin. But we successfully created Ktor backend for frontend. So that was some layer standing between mobile application and the main API. So you can do some great stuff. You can do some great stuff in Ktor. Backend for frontend is nice. I'm looking for more of your questions. How to get started with open source. We talked already about that. To get started, you need to find some open issues on GitHub. Sorry, and just start doing. Doing is the solution for everything. Oh, hello, Mohit. You wrote that you forgot account for time zone. Okay. But we have, you can replay this webinar. Are we to the Android Pro question, I believe? Are we going to learn CI/CD as well? Yes, I have that kind of topics prepared because we did that already in Polish courses. So for sure, mobile DevOps topic will be coming in some way to the Android Pro. Another question. How should I learn to do IoT projects using Android? So IoT, Internet of Things, you need to find a thing you are integrating to. So this, for example, might be beacon device or something like elements of your smart home. And then you need to connect to that device somehow, for example, with Bluetooth Low Energy, and then try to tickle with that. So again, learning by doing. You can buy cheap IoT stuff with something like budget clone of Raspberry Pi, anything that has Bluetooth. And if something has Bluetooth, then you can connect to this. Okay, Alicia has some interesting question. Is the Google Android certificate respected from the recruiters? When I am looking at people's CVs, I don't usually check the certificates. I tend to focus more on projects that you actually did, but to give some certificates a praise. Okay, if you don't have commercial experience, getting a certificate, especially from Google, will be beneficial. So great question, Alicia. Yeah, that's actually a good question, and that kind of certificates will be respected by most of the recruiters if you are on junior position. If you are on mid senior position, you may put that kind of certificate in your CV, but it shouldn't matter that much. Suggest some productive software. The most productive software is going out and being on the sun. Go out and stop spending so much time at your desk. What will this architecture course add and improve to the already existing official Android architecture guidelines path course? Okay, so this course will be about you building your application, modeling domain, modeling data source, and everything related to architecture components. Yeah, because this will be about application architecture, not exactly about architecture components. We talked previously about domain-driven design, and I want to somehow include domain-driven design into this course. But the main goal of this architecture course will be learning in cohort, learning in group together, one concept at a time, one concept by the week, one concept in 1 week, and learning that together. So when it comes to content, of course, for every course you can find the same materials elsewhere, but we are doing this course as a part of community to discuss the technology, to discuss the design principles, and not just following one tutorial. I'm not sure if I answered your question, but it won't be just a course. What exactly are we going to build in cohort? I have some projects in mind about which applications we will be doing, but I believe we as a community will provide list of topics. So you will be doing your project, and if you don't come up with a project idea, we will give you project idea to work on. What do you think about Conductor library? Have you used it? Conductor, I have to check it. Was it for navigation? Conductor library. Oh no, sorry. I haven't had a chance to use Conductor library. How do I navigate large open source code bases? I try to contribute to open source and get overwhelmed. Yeah, and that's the difficult part. That's the difficult part because every project is different. Okay, we have general guidelines like clean architecture, design principles, but eventually every project is different. So I suggest to start with open source projects that you are using as a user. For example, Telegram application, maybe the newest Telegram X application. You know this as a user, so you know where to find what's in the settings screen, and you have some idea how to navigate to this settings screen. And if you know the application as a user, it will be easier to you to explore its code base. So maybe that could be a solution for you. Should I work on foldable apps? Should I work on foldable apps? If you have foldable phone, then try it. Maybe you can check it on the Android emulator. But personally, I know only one person that uses foldable phone. And I'm not sure if that trend is gonna grow with foldable phones. Yeah, and maybe better solution will be a wearable app, as you suggested. So if you don't have a foldable phone, don't think at the moment of building foldable app. If you have smartwatch, of course, build wearable app. Not all Android developers created wearable apps, so it may be quite nice experience. And if you do project on a wearable and put it in your portfolio, in your CV, it will be recognized. Question: can we also collaborate and build projects with others in the cohort? Of course, that's the idea. First, so you to understand how to work within clean architecture, and the second thing, how to build something in a team. So there will be homeworks, for example, modeling domain, but you will have to integrate it to your application. So you will have a chance to collaborate with others. As a pro, what's the best advice you would give to the college students? Let me think. Learn the fundamentals. Sometimes I'm lacking the fundamentals of the informatics as a science. I know mostly programming, and I'm not so proficient of computer science. And if you have a chance to learn proper computer science from people with PhD, from professors, to learn the theory behind computer science, and you have a chance to do it at your college, at your university, do it. Because everything else you will learn during your job. Question: can I make an app with Android phone as well as a wearable app? Yeah, you can do something like, I don't know, random project idea, weather forecast. So you're doing weather forecasting on your phone and you have a module with a wearable that will display only the temperature on your wearable. So something like that. So the wearable app will be the companion for the main app. Question: should I learn multi-modular software development? What course do you recommend for this purpose? I don't know any up-to-date courses on multi-modular software development. You may check what's in the Chris Baines application or official Google application about multi-modular architecture and try to copy it. I don't know any open courses about that topic. And should you learn multi-modular software development? Yeah, you probably should, but it should be part of doing some project, not with the intention of learning multi-modular software itself. And we have last question for today because we are here over 1 hour. Accompagnaist have deprecated some of the libraries? Probably yes, because Accompagnaist is a tool that eventually will be integrated to the main Compose, but for some reason at the moment isn't, because Compose API, some of the Compose APIs are not fully stable. So yeah, things that are deprecated, things that are experimental, and things that are both are the bread and butter of Android developers. Thank you for being live in here. I had fun. I had fun being here with you, talking about Android and interacting with you. So thank you very much for being here on this webinar, and see you maybe in the community. Thanks. Bye.